Man of Steel was better than the Superman movie that James Gunn.
Whoa.
When Disney bought it, they literally took the soul out of Star Wars. Check it out, MUSA
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Panels on Pages. My name is Dalibor Zujovic. I am the indie hype man, and today we are back with an OG of the podcast, going back to even the previous iteration of this podcast, TJ Sterling of RAE Comics. How are you doing, sir?
What up? I'm good, man.
Now let me first do something real quick. 'Cause I did a little setup for this because I want to read a sentence from the Wikipedia of what we're about to talk about today. Now you've got a new Kickstarter going on, and it is for a fictionalized telling of the life story of a particular historical character, historical individual who was, according to many reports, I'm just gonna read the sentence. MUSA was exceptionally wealthy to the extent that contemporaries described him as inconceivably rich. So we're of course talking about Mansa Musa, and you got the background, which I appreciate. That's super great. Let's just jump into that right away. What is this new book about?
Yeah, so anybody who's seen some of my work before, you'll probably notice that most of it's, more geared towards sci-fi, fantasy, cyberpunk, any of the realms that are kind of in the fantastical. And with this particular story, I really, really wanted to kind of dial it back to something a little bit more down to earth and tell a story about a um, historical figure that lived, that person that walked the earth, that was actually here on this plane of existence at one point in time. And Mansa Musa was always a character that was very intriguing to me because there's so much of his story that's shrouded in lore, in mystery, and there's lots of kind of holes, if you will, in terms of the chronology of when he died, when he lived. I'm sorry, when he was born, when he died, and then lots of events in between. So it just kind of seemed like a story that was really ripe for expansion and growth. So we wanted to tell a story of a younger Mansa Musa. The book that we've created, it's called Musa Lion of Mali. It's a 120-page graphic novel, 100 pages of story, 20 pages of behind the scenes artwork. We actually get a window into the early life of Mansa Musa before he became king. So his real name is Musa Keita. He's part of the Keita clan. That's Keita. These are an ancestral lineage of rulers in West Africa that spans from the 12th century to the 14th century. So now a few hundred years, a couple hundred years of sorts of rulership, dynastic rulership within that area. At the time of Mansa Musa's rule, he had a massive territory of land that encompassed gold reserves, diamonds, oil. The Library of Timbuktu was, within the borders of, the land that he ruled over. So lots of incredible things. I mean, he was the first black dude to ever be drawn on a world map. So just think about
Ooh.
world map being circulated throughout different parts of the globe in the 14th century. He was so famous and so well known and so viral before viral was a thing that he was on this world map and people were revering and curious about his wealth and his power and his impact.
You could say he invented being viral.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
absolutely.
the first one to go viral, man. That's it's such an incredible take because it's a name I've heard. I've heard it mentioned in hip hop. I've heard it mentioned in various movies and shows, just like as like a reference, as like a point of like Musa, right? Mansa Musa. You hear here and there, and you're never quite sure what the narrative is and what the story is. And when I heard your original, the first time I heard the pitch for the book, I was like, oh, that's crazy. Just that notion of he was so wealthy that he could change economies just by like essentially taking a walk down the road. Like
Yeah.
that's a crazy, like he was wealthy and generous with it. That's the thing. He spread his wealth. And that's the crazy part about it is like we don't know this kind of history. We don't, and this is like factual. This man was in power. He was king for 25 years, a quarter century. He was in power of the kingdom of Mali, and just there's no movie. there's no TV show.
Yep.
That's the crazy stuff. Like we have all these great heroes and great characters from history that just get overlooked. And
Hmm.
this is a great jumping on point for especially telling a younger story, an earlier story. I mean, this is one of those could run into 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 volumes. You got 25 years of him being king, plus you're starting before that, even on top of that. So you got story to tell.
Yeah, the whole idea that me and my co-creator sat down and cooked up was, a 5 book epic, five 100
Mm.
page graphic novels where we are able to kind of tell a really robust story, starting with Musa in his younger years. Everybody knows him as the richest man, but that was the end of his journey. That was towards, the latter part of his life when he was already a fully fledged adult. But we wanted to go back where he was a young, brash warrior who was essentially assisting his uncle, the king, great King Abubakari, who was a real person as well, um, basically expand the empire. Musa in this story is the sword of the king and essentially runs the army to expand the empire beyond the reaches of its borders. And his brother Suleiman Keita is also in the story. And Suleiman's another person who actually took over rulership of Mali after Mansa died. I'm sorry, after Musa died. So eventually there was Mansa Keita, Mansa Suleiman at one point, because again, Mansa means ruler, means sultan, king in various different translations. But yeah, so his brother takes over. So we saw all these really interesting story threads. The Mali at that point was a very large sailing nation. So they had over 3,000 ships that were built
Wow.
and would sail all over the world. And most of the time, the king, from what we were able to discover, was basically just telling people to just venture out, sail out as far as you can and bring back as much knowledge as you can. And sometimes people came back and sometimes people didn't.
Sure.
But one thing is for sure that they had came and touched down in the quote unquote Americas before Columbus ever did. So like I think we but the only difference is that they didn't rape, pillage, and claim it as India. They just came in, saw what it was, probably traded a little bit, got some knowledge, and then left. Rightfully so, respecting the land. So um, it's just a very very interesting world to kind of research and discover and dive deeper on when you look into it.
Excellent. And that's it's exciting for me because I like a little like fantasized history. Like I like a little like give me the thing that happened, tell me about it, but like sprinkle some cool shit in. Like
Yep.
I recently watched what was the series called? Oh my goodness, I see again, so terrible with names lately. It's a time travel show, it was Amazon Prime, and it was 2 seasons, 2 solid seasons, and it was really just like jumping back to these like historical events, like the Hindenburg, right? And again, one of those like you hear about it, you read about it, pieces here and there, and then it like showed the whole thing and what happened and like sort of why it happened, and I was like, oh, that's super cool to like just get this thing. But like mixed into this like like time travel show, it's a time travel show, but like, oh, here's this historical event, here's this other historical event, here's these like factoids. Ended up seeing one of the episodes, they end up meeting Madame Curie like on the road during the war. Like it's like stuff like that you don't get to really talk about because it's either like an in-depth heavy 200 300 page novel that someone's researched their whole life for, and it's like, all right, cool, like there's that if you want to go just like heavy in depth, or there's like the barest mention in like a textbook as you're growing up. So this is kind of like that super sweet spot in between that's like, here's the history, and then we're just going to sprinkle some cool shit on top to keep your interest and keep you engaged. And like 5 books, love that. I like the concept, the just the fact that you've already got it concepted out for 5 books. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, there's so much ground to cover. I mean, Musa's ascent to the throne, his pilgrimage to Mecca, his interaction with, the rulers in Egypt at the time. There's so many interesting pieces of history that we would like to cover. And honestly, like we didn't want to go super fantastical here. Like, it could have been a thing where we did flying cars and, futuristic armor and, mechs and stuff like that. But like
Sure.
I just we it wouldn't have made sense, and we would have felt like it would have been disrespectful to, the diaspora of black comics and really the character as a whole. I just think that we would really had to come at it respectfully and try to tell a story that was unique and different and exciting, and make it a thing where it was like people pick up the book and they get a chance to view history from this particular lens. But yeah, there's an eye drops worth of fantasy in it, and it's like we call it like very light magic. You're not going to see full on Gandalf energy, but you're going to get a little bit of just subtle hints about magic and what it can be and all that good stuff. So it's really interesting to me how people are responding to some of the thing, the characters, some of the art, some of the imagery, and really history is just fun. I mean, I love history. Like if I wasn't an illustrator, I probably would have been an art historian. That was like my second favorite class. And art history from all different tribes across the world is very unique. Um, every group of people have very, very interesting artistic history and artistic stories and history period. So yeah, I'm happy to bring this story to you guys and give you a window into what we're working with.
Dude, I'm glad that this is the route you've chosen because we've gotten the Okamus, right? We've got Okamus Dark History, we've gotten the sci-fi, the tokusatsu kind of superhero elements, right? We've got the little more cyberpunky, little more psychological thriller kind of joint with the Shattered Visions. We have the kind of positive future, in the Joystick Angels, and so all of this stuff is really great. You have all these different elements of what you're doing, and to have this more focused on a historical element is just it's a nice little refresher, and it shows your range. It shows your capabilities as a creator, as an author, as an illustrator. I mean, the art is of course fantastic. There's I'm a TJ Sterling fan. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm
Dalibor fan, shit, man.
like I can't, I try not to gush when I have people who I'm a fan of on, because I could just sit here and be like, man, this is so dope. But like
Yeah.
like I'm trying to give the people something a little more nuanced, like not just me gushing for a couple hours. But
Hey
like,
man, no, you're a good dude, and I always love the show that you created, and the love that you've shown the characters and what we're building, man. Because I mean, really, it's you guys. I mean, it's the fans and the supporters that have allowed me to be in business for the last 10 years and to make really cool stories, and it's that grassroots support, man. And I think a lot of people forget that Marvel and DC had a good 50 years of content under their belt before they ever started making a TV show or before they ever made a movie or before they ever created, a line of toys. So like, the creators who've been in business for a very short period of time, it's really important that you keep us on your radar so you can stay what's going on, stay up to date as to what is happening, what's going on. Because it means a lot, and with this story, we do aim to like really diversify what we offer on the table, because if I came out with another sci-fi story, it just wouldn't feel as exciting. I think the sci-fi genre, as I continue to write it for the books that are pre-existing, that's the space that they live in. I don't even think I have an interest in telling a different sci-fi story than what's already there, because we want to just keep building on what we put down.
sure.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, I've never written a horror story. I've never written again, I had written no historical period pieces until now. So like really just checking those off, those off the bucket list, because I'm really excited about, again, just expanding and making more cool stuff for you guys.
Hell yeah, man. I love to hear that. A TJ Sterling horror story. I'm already intrigued. I'm not even a horror fan, but now
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, if you're presenting it, I'm gonna give it a shot. Cause
Yeah. See, man, like, what's crazy to me is that the scariest types of movies are not the ones that you expect. Well, at least for me, I'm not like a Saw 3 type of guy. I'm more like I don't know. I would say like the original Ring was very disturbing to me. It was like disturbing,
Yeah.
scary. Like I was like, this isn't horror. This is just like disturbing. Like
Makes you uncomfortable.
yeah, yeah. And then even like, the Blair Witch Project was like that felt real. It felt a little too real for me. And I think that's why it hit. So like if I was gonna do horror, don't know if I'd go vampire or like Frankenstein or werewolves, but I do think that I would most likely go in the direction of something semi, mockumentary-ish with like, some real elements in there. I'd have to really think about it because it's a genre that so many people like play in that space. Like every day, there's always a new Frankenstein movie. By the way, the new Frankenstein movie from Guillermo del Toro is amazing. It's really, really good.
Oh, I didn't even know he did a Frankenstein movie.
Yeah, yeah. He redid the Frankenstein like whole like the whole character, remodeled the mythos of it. It's on Netflix. It's actually
Oh,
pretty
okay.
good. Um
I'll have to give that a
I
shot.
like that a lot.
I've seen all sorts of variety of Frankenstein, and that's one of those things that like it lends itself to such different interpretations as well, because it is sort of a quintessential sci-fi story, and then you could sort of go any which way you want with it. They've got the sort of over the top kind of ridiculous version over at DC. You had your kind of like serious dramatic take with De Niro, back in the 90s, which
Mhm.
like it was an interesting thing to see him having already seen him in such like serious hard like modern day set dramatic roles. To see him in that was like a very strange experience for me, because
Yep.
it's again it shows that like that range that people have, because it was also when they first did, what was it, Meet the Parents. So
Mhm.
very odd to see him in a comedy for me, because I had
Yep.
only seen him in these like hard hitting dramatic roles, and I'm like, okay, and then it was good, it was entertaining. Like,
Yeah, that's the mark of an artist, somebody who really cares about the medium where they can just shift gears and go into a different direction. And, when it comes to talking about Musa and what we're trying to do, that's exactly what this is. It's just the gear shifting and trying to deliver something cool to you guys. I mean, it is 120-page graphic novel, some really fantastic story. And we did something different this time around where we decided to complete the book in its entirety before we came to Kickstarter, which is a little risky because people are like, oh, hey, what do you need our money for? But at the same time, we kind of created a special glorified pre-order campaign that gives you access to a book that's already completed. When we receive the funds, all we're going to be doing is printing the book, marketing it, so more people understand what's going on and more people know what we're doing. But we've got a standard cover. We have a Kickstarter exclusive cover. We've got some bespoke T-shirts that will only be printed and mass marketed to the folks that are on the campaign and never done again after that. Access to my entire library of content plus a bunch of other really cool stuff. So yeah, and I think we have 11 more days left on this campaign. So like
11
really,
days to go. It was a $10,000 goal,
yeah,
which is a pretty I say it sounds like a steep, but it's a steep if it wasn't a 120-page book. For a
yep,
120-page book, this is a reasonable goal. So that's my head is always like, what's my value prop, right? I saw a campaign the other day. I was like, all right, well, what is it? And it's like, all right, well, it was like a 60-page book, and I was like, then I'm like doing math. I'm doing a little bit of math, because then I'm like, is this a reasonable price, or is this a reasonable goal? I've seen people on a first attempt. I still don't know what happened to those guys. I might have to like do a little research and try to figure out what that was about. There was a campaign that launched early last year, or no, late last year, that had been advertising the entire year before that. Like, I saw ads on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere,
hmm,
and it opened up and the goal was $50,000.
wow,
And I was just like, that is for your first issue, you have no name. You don't exist in the comic space right now. And you are asking for 50 grand. Like that's an insane. So I might do a little research project on that. But yeah, so like you've got your $10,000 very reasonable goal that you've already crushed. $17,035 as of recording. And so you've already crushed the first stretch goal, which is the Indie Comics bundle, which is
Yeah.
always a great little experience. That's how I was exposed to I was privy to something a little special, which we'll talk about a little bit. But that's how I was first exposed to Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. Fantastic book, by the way. I just picked up the trade. But now you've got at 20K a hardcover. And I can't explain to the people that are watching and listening how much Dalibor loves him a hardcover. So
Yeah.
get on that campaign and get us some ducats so Dalibor can get him a hardcover.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, if you've already pledged to the campaign and you're watching, I mean, this is a perfect time to up your pledge as much as you can because really the goal with that 20K stretch goal, and again, we're really not far off within 11 days. We feel very confident we'll be blasting through that soon. That we're going to be able to give everybody a hardcover that wants one. If you desire a hardcover, whether it's the Kickstarter regular edition or the special edition book, you can get either one of those. And it's the first time I've ever printed hardcovers before. So it's also kind of a very unique time for us as a company because, like, hardcovers are just it's a whole different beast. It's a different whole can of worms that like I have yet to like open at all. So I'm
Yeah,
very curious, but I get a lot of requests for hardcovers, and that's why we said, you know what, while we satisfied our initial goal, our initial ask was only 10K. That was just again a very light goal for printing and marketing. But our big goal, we really, really want to get you guys is this hardcover at 20K, and we really feel confident we can do that.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited. I hadn't even, I mean, obviously it's you. So I'll be honest with you. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be backing regardless. So I scrolled down, picked my campaign level, and jumped on. Like I didn't read the campaign because I don't need to, right? I'm like I said, I'm a TJ Sterling fan. I'm backing the campaign. So
Appreciate
now I was preparing for this conversation. I was like, let me scroll through, see what the stretch goals are. And I was like, hardcover. Well, now I have to talk about that because I do love a hardcover, and I do need you to stop signing on the outside though. At least my copies.
Sure,
The copy
man.
that's coming to me because I just pull these out and I was like, oh man, when because I have sticky, I have slimy hands sometimes, man. If I start reading, they get see right now, they're already a little greasy. I'm
Yeah,
gonna mess up those signatures and I'm gonna feel bad about it. But I'm because I read my books. I read my books.
no
I
doubt.
actually, I actually, I want your input on this. As an indie creator, you have had your single issues, you've had your trades, and now you're doing a full trade and potentially a hardcover, likely a hardcover. So you've done sort of the gamut. How much do you rest your laurels, the value prop, if you will, for the consumer on the paper quality? Because a lot of
Oh
I
yeah.
see a lot of indie creators that are like, oh man, it's like the greatest paper quality, and I'm like, but I'm trying to read the book. Like I don't necessarily. It could be on newsprint, honestly. Like I just need it to be readable and enjoyable. Like
Yeah, yeah, like what's crazy, I talk about this quite a bit, and I guess I'll give you guys some inside baseball, whoever's watching and wants to learn how to a little bit about making comics that you know, when you're Marvel and DC, when you look at the books that they make for single issues, they're always printed on like 50-pound gloss magazine stock covers. It's the same paper they use in magazines for the cover and the interior pages. And that particular paperweight is not available to independent creators. Most production houses do not offer it unless you're printing in the tens of thousands. And that's really where, again, you know the business of indie comics is more advantageous for a printer because a printer knows that, hey, independent guys, we have to basically upcharge them to make it profitable for us. So the paper quality is always like, hey, if you want a site, you're going to see, if you're lucky, 60-pound gloss, but most of the time it's 70 and 80-pound and 100-pound gloss, which is the thicker stuff. And it gives it independent books that like feel of it being more of a prestige item. But again, the big two don't do prestige items unless they're hardcovers or trade paperbacks. So my thing is that when a Marvel or DC does a trade paperback then and an indie does one, the margins are about the same. So it's kind of like I could do a graphic novel at almost the same price that Marvel does. They just order more than I do. So the goal is to always get to a point where you're ordering thousands of books because, A, they're moving that quickly, and B, you're locked into a more structured price point that actually makes sense and you
Sure.
can get where it's better. But for me, I love good paper, man. I mean, I don't want it to be super fancy. I don't need spot gloss or, anything reflective. I just need like a good quality, like 60 to 80 pound gloss on the cover. And then, on the interior is about the same. And now we're just doing strictly graphic novels. We're doing books. We're not doing floppies like that anymore.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and recently, well, not 100% accurate, only because we're doing a special kind of like, so I signed a distribution deal with Lunar earlier this year, and they currently distribute Joystick Angels to comic book stores, the graphic novel form. But we are going to be doing a single issue release of the follow up to the Okuma series, which is the Tessina mini series, is going to be structured in single issue form for the Lunar Distribution, comic book shop channel. So all the LCSs are going to get single issues of this book before everybody else, and then from there, we'll most likely collect that book, and we're going to go the store route and see how that fares. But yeah, it's going to be 2026 is going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Dude, that's awesome. First of all, congrats. I must have missed that news, but that's super cool. Love to hear that. That means I can tell my shop to pick it up, put it on the shelf. I'm
Yeah,
actually, I literally, I was like, let me just reach for my phone. Let me just do that, like right now, so I don't
the
want to forget.
the like it's really important, guys. Everybody who's watching, like when it comes to indie comics, like if you're interested in a specific book that's indie, requesting it at the shop actually gives the shop confidence to buy it without, a risk. And that means like, hey, I know that this book, if I buy it, someone's going to get it from me and I'm going to make a profit. And there's that fear that diminishes or dissipates, if you will, from the comic shop's mind. And this is just, again, more inside baseball. When you as fans request a book to be put in your pull list, it's a game changer because literally, you can get it from a store and it's like, oh, this is great. Let me get one, let me get more. And then it becomes a thing where they're going to get more of the books that you want in the shop.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. Well, so when you're gonna be out here, we should definitely see if we can get you do a little see if we could get like an extra day, and we'll get you up at Blurred's Underground in LaGrange, so you
Yep.
could promo the upcoming book and the upcoming title.
Yeah, shout out to the Blurs Underground. They got a great shop. They're really cool guys. I met them for the first time at C2E2 this year,
Hell yeah,
and I'm hoping to do some more business with them and just get to know them a little bit better over time.
that's my people's. I mean, I love those guys.
Yeah,
I was just up there Sunday. Like, I just hang out up there, man. I go hang out and then I get into trouble because I pre-ordered too much stuff.
I can dig it, man. That's cool.
No, that's fantastic. So, gonna have the singles for the Tessina miniseries. So is that gonna be it for Okamus as far as like in that world?
So there's actually a ton more stuff going on for that IP. Only because like that's my favorite. That's an IP for myself. I made it really like the story I ever always wanted to tell for myself. That's
Sure.
what it is. It's every cool inspiration I've ever had kind of like bundled into one. And everything else from that has been a riff or been, a new idea or a new concept that's meant to really be in service of the fans, you guys who like cool stuff. So um, Okemos issue 6 drops next year. The book is fully colored. All I need is lettering on that. So I'll most likely be doing some type of either a Kickstarter or pre-order for it, or I might just drop it at a con and just see how people like it, and put it out there and go from there. But yeah, the issue 6 essentially is the bridge between the Tessina miniseries, which is the spin-off series from Okemos. So you're going to get a 40-page book, and change for Okemos 6 in 2026, and then you're going to get the Ticina miniseries that follows that up like right afterwards. So you're literally going to get, one thing that ends this particular arc, but then the other arc begins, and that's going to be a 7 issue miniseries. Um, and then I'll have something that most likely follows that up. So we'll see. It's gonna be cool.
So the Okemos world is your ongoing playground. That's where you're gonna have the most fun potentially.
Yeah, it's like, again, it's the first story I had. So like, when you have one story and you've had it for years, it just kind of starts to evolve over time. And I'm really hoping. Well, that's kind of what's going on right now with Musa. I mean, and like, well, let's say Joystick Angels. Like, okay, Volume 1 was received well, and then we want to continue that. So we just went right into Volume 2. Basically developing issues 4, 5, and 6 into one big book, just to kind of offer that to you guys as fast as possible. So we're literally just building, and I get more and more ideas and more inspiration and more stuff that kind of like flows into my psyche as I'm building one book at a time. So working on Shattered Visions Volume 2, working on that. The writing, we just started writing it. So yeah, we're just cranking away, man. Just building, cooking up as much as possible. I mean, guys, if you want to see my latest book, all you have to do is head to musalionofmali.com. It's literally going to it's going to bring you right to the Kickstarter page. We've got tiers as low as $5. So if you just want to get the first chapter of this book to kind of taste it out, just test it out, excuse me, get a taste and test it out. Um, you can do that for $5. But you can get the digital book for 15. You can get the entire digital collection I have for not much more. You can get printed copies just for 30 with shipping. So like, we've got some great tiers that people we think that you guys are going to love. So yeah, check it out. musalionofmali.com.
I want that hardcover, people. I want that hardcover. Make it happen. Make it happen. I want it. I want it bad.
Shit, I mean, I want it too, because I mean,
I like
well,
an indie hardcover, man. I'll tell you right here. Be by the horns, Marcus San Naso. Man, I'm getting a little better with the names. Uh, but I walked away at C2E2 last year, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna be good, and I won't buy this $50 hardcover. And then like in October or whatever, it was like, oh, volume 2 is dropping on Kickstarter. You can get both volumes. And I was like, all right. So then I spent 100. So, I don't necessarily know that I did a good thing, but yeah, I
like
got both. But like, it's a hardcover. It
it's
feels good when you have it collected, the whole thing. And it's just like a nice, and especially because you got those bonus features in there behind the scenes, the production artwork. That's my shit. I love it. And to have that in a hardcover is always the best feeling. It always just makes it feel a little extra special.
Yeah, man. Well, just like you, I mean, I'm a collector at heart. I've been collecting comics since the late '80s, and like, I absolutely just love comics as a fan and as a just a creator now. So for me, like, I want to do the stuff that I thought was cool and I loved as a fan, and what I hear you guys love. So like, I'm putting more and more behind the scenes artwork in all of the books that I make. So like, the cool thing about the Musa book is that when we were thinking about Mali, you know, the Musa Lion of Mali is not just a story about a guy and his adventures. It's really about, a guy and his relationship to the continent, as well as to the country that he rules over, or he will eventually rule over. So we knew that Mali in the 14th century had to be as robust and realistic as possible. So we spent a ton of time just on research and development building this world. So like, when you see the back of the book, you're going to see, all the cool production sketches, environmental designs. There's designs for villages, for cityscapes, for towns, for different homes. There's an insane amount of character designs that we did for this book. There's a bunch of 3D models and 3D assets
Wow.
built, for structural reference of, like, like the Royal Palace and, all of these different things. So really, it's been a fun journey, just building a universe first, as if it was a major motion picture or a video game, like building a world and an asset library that allowed our artists to basically come in and see what was available asset wise and then just start working. So no one had to figure anything out. It was all figured out for them when they came to the table. And that's something I've never done with any book before.
And did that smooth out the process? Did that make it like much more efficient? You like timeline wise, like your let's say the Okemos timeline versus this timeline for the same amount of work. How much time was saved just by having that early work?
The so much time because how do I put it? Most artists, we kind of like we riff off of like ideas and like pieces, and it's very much like jazz. It's like we're in the creating the creative space of just like what is inspiring. Excuse me. We're in the creative space of what's inspiring and what's kind of like tickling our fancy at the moment. And for me, a lot of times I just kind of went where the wind took me with certain stories. Like I knew where I wanted to go with it and I knew what I wanted to do, but like introducing different characters and different scenarios really was like, again, a riff off of what happened in the story. Like the Tessina miniseries was a riff off of the original idea of the climax of Okemos #6. Like at the
Hmm.
end, I was like, wait a minute, like this might be the only person that's left. Or is it like, or do I want to play with this idea that, these characters, might not exist in the future or in the past, or like, how do I want to do it? So, like, it was very much riffing off of one idea after the other, which was fun, but it does make it a little bit more challenging only because I have to kind of reinvent the wheel on certain things. And like, I don't have a reference library for these new characters I just created. So now it's like, okay, a bunch of new characters I have to make. But in this case, we sat down and we said, hey, here's the script. We got the script done first. And then we said, we're going to build this universe. We had two Ray Media interns, which was great. It was
Just flex on them a little
Lauren.
bit with the interns. That's cool.
Yeah, Lauren and Marin, two young ladies from the Detroit Creative Arts from Michigan, and they really, really put a ton of work into helping us build this world. So they did all the stuff that you're going to see in the back of the book. These two young ladies did, and it really gave a solid foundation for the artist to basically come in and just do their thing. Like, oh, hey, I've got models. I know what this building looks like. I don't have to look at a picture from Wikipedia. This is great, and I think too, when you're talking about structural design and structural elements, having a model that an artist can download and then turn it in real time to get the right view of
Yeah,
how
yeah.
it from this angle, if it's a down shot or an up shot, those things really, really help with the with the creation process, because then the artist doesn't have to overthink it and they don't have to spend a day trying to figure out how to draw a building. Like they have a model for it. So it really lent itself to this thing where we created assets that could be used for the next 10 years just for this IP. So it was
That's what's up.
yeah, it just was a different approach, man. I'd never done that before. It was very ambitious, but it felt like it was the right thing to do because again, we've got a character that's larger than life in a time period that's larger than life, as well as in a city that was, I'm sorry, a nation, a country that was, bigger than life itself as well.
Heck yeah, man. So it with the excuse me, with the research materials, I took a peek at some of the preview pages and stuff, and I see some fight scenes. Obviously, there's you said he's running the army, so I have a couple questions from that angle, right? With the prep work, I see, and even in the image behind you, we see him holding a sword. Are the sword, and this is for the weapon and army nerds in the audience, are the swords like era accurate? Are they using the same kind of weapons that they were using in Mali at the time? And then additionally, as far as the combat, I'm curious about the combat myself. Is that something that you went into any kind of in-depth research on as far as like what kind of combat was being used at the time?
Yes. We spent a ton of research and time as to what the clothing was of the era, down to like, okay, what was some of the most well produced colors of the time,
Mm.
things of that nature. Because, certain colors like blue and yellow or like purple were a little harder to come by in certain regions, of
Yeah,
the
they used
time.
to be a sign of wealth.
Yeah, yeah, because again, not a lot of folks could afford to get a garment that was dyed from, this particular, blue flower or whatever it is that they were using to dye these things. So we tried to, go in that direction. What's period accurate, and the foil that Musa has is, is period accurate to the 14th century Muslim, back, heritage. So Mali was a Muslim nation at the time. I think it's primarily Christian now, but in the 14th century, it was a Muslim nation, and their weaponry, the way they fought, all of that was in that we studied and we got picture that of that stuff. Then we literally put that all into the reference material. So Musa is not going to be walking around with a katana or a hammer that's 10 times his size. This isn't going to be Viking stuff. Oh, as cool as that stuff is, it just we had to stay as accurate as we could.
Dude, that's awesome. I love to hear that. Like, excuse me. The I'm not a huge personally, like for instance, I'm not a big fan of like the World War II era. Like movies from that era really got to give me something I didn't know about, or you gotta do Inglorious Bastards kind of joint, where like it needs to be so out of pocket that like, all right, I'm entertained by like the absurdity of it. Cause like, certain eras they teach you so much about. So like I know what was happening like I don't want to say fully in World War II, but like I know the big beats, you
Hmm.
know. But like I watched Valkyrie and I didn't know that there was this like, German plot to assassinate Hitler. Like that was interesting. That was new information for me. So that's why like the actual like combat and war of it was like tolerable because I was like, oh, this is new information about the period. I didn't know this plot existed. Like this was not a thing I was aware of because they don't
Hmm.
teach this kind of stuff. So this kind of thing where I know nothing about this kind of era, I'm super curious about like the kind of weapons that are being used and the kind of combat that's in play because it just like it's something that it tickles a part of my brain that I like haven't fully like explored. But whenever I see it, whenever it's stuff like that, it really like a satisfying kind of feeling. For instance, good friend of mine, oh my god, I'm so bad with names. I don't know what it is, man. Maybe I need more sleep. Henri Compon. Jeez. Henri Compon, most recently, he's been doing the title War Lion. But the long-standing title has been Yisun Shin. It is of the Korean general, like pre-separation, pre-split. This is naval Korea era, and it's super interesting to me. And it's pretty much played 100% straight. I don't recall there being any kind of like fantasy elements or anything.
Hmm.
If so, again, like yourself, you're only a little bit like sprinkled in. But like the war strategy, the all this stuff, like it really just grips me because it's an era that I know nothing about. I've never seen movies about it. There's not a dozen video games that are set in that era. Like it's that's why every time they did was it Call of Duty when they went back to World War II, I'm like, I don't play that one. That one's boring.
Yeah, man. How do I put it? I was, my dad was a big novel guy growing up. Like he loved, um, James Clavell and John Grisham and like, who else did you read? Daniel Steele. He read a bunch of like 90s novelists
So
that
you
had
got to
some
hit him
really.
with a Tom Clancy.
Oh, he was a huge Tom Clancy fan. I think he's got every Tom Clancy book that exists, which is crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, he was a novel guy. He liked TV, but he read more than he watched TV. So for us, it was always kind of interesting because I was exposed to Shogun, at a very young age, and I actually have the paperback, like little mini novel because it comes in like a bigger hardcover
Yeah, yeah.
mini one you can put in your backpack. And I actually started reading that many, many years ago, when I first moved out of Michigan and went to the East Coast for college. So like I was familiar and excited about period pieces and how a person, because like the main character is literally like a regular guy, in terms of him being new to this culture and how to navigate through it and all that good stuff. So you relate to him immediately. You feel like you're in his shoes. And I was like, would love to be able to do something very similar to that with Musa, where we are putting you in a place where you can relate to a lot of these characters and you can feel your way into the environment, into the world, and be drawn in, be pulled into this interesting history. Because James Clavell didn't live in 15th century Japan, but like with the amount of research he did, he basically channeled that ancestral energy into the book, into the writing. And that's what we aim to do with this book too, is to give you a piece of history that's exciting, that's new, that's interesting, that you haven't seen before. And it's crazy to us because there's more rap songs about Mansa Musa than there is visual depictions of what he looks like,
A hundred
which is,
percent.
I mean, just if you guys Google it on iTunes, not Google it, I'm sorry, if you search it on iTunes, you will see a laundry list of rap songs and other types of songs about Mansa Musa because of his wealth, because of his prominence. It's kind of like a flex or a swag to talk about a guy from that era, or at least channel that energy. So for us, we were like, hey, there's no comic books that have ever been done about this guy. There's no, novels that have been written about him. He's a very interesting character. There's a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to the story and the stuff that we could do with that. So it was just very interesting to me, the potential to work with this character and what we could do with it. And again, so far the reception's been warm. So I mean, I pretty feeling pretty confident we can guarantee you guys another 4 books within the next few years. So yeah, check it out. MusaLionOfMali.com. Please, guys. Thank you.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And see, I appreciate that you sneak that in every once in a while because you're practiced at marketing, man. That is one of that is one of the conversations I like to have with a lot of indie creators, because there's a segment of indie creators that just they hate the marketing. And I get it, but like you gotta be able to pitch the book. You gotta be able to talk about the book. It's like the number one thing, right? Like after the book is made, it doesn't matter unless you talk about the book. Like I've been in conversations where I've set people up for like do it, like give me the pitch, and they're like yeah. I'm not like I need more, I need some energy.
Need some more, man. Yeah, no, it's you know, somebody said this to me, and it's kind of like a old school saying, but it's closed mouths don't get fed. If you're not going to,
Mm,
be loud about what it is that you want, you got to be loud enough. And why is it comedians are all usually like the middle child, right? Because they usually have to scream the loudest and make a joke to get noticed in order to,
mm,
you know, be seen by their parents and everybody else in the room, because there's a sea of people here. I mean, my dad was the middle child out of like 9 kids. So like, there's always a thing like my uncle, my mom's brother is like the only boy out of like, 3 other girls. Like he was the loudest one in the room. He was the silliest one. He had to, entertain his sisters. So like, I do think that, when you're talking about just books and marketing, you have to talk about the thing that you're doing. You got to talk about it. You got to plug it. You got to get excited about it, and you got to like engage with people. And that's one of my favorite things. Is that engaging with people. I actually got in trouble a little bit at New York Comic Con because I was a little too engaging. And that's just because like I like to leave my table. I like to, get outside my table, stretch my legs, shake some
sure.
hands, hug a few people that I haven't seen in a while. And sometimes I like to, just be in the aisles and talk to people and get to know people. And some of the my fellow booth mates, or my booth neighbors didn't really like that, because they're the old school method where they just want to sit there and allow people to come to them. And it's good, that works for people who, have drawn Spider-Man their entire life, and they've
Right.
got someone else's character that's fueling the interest in their work. But like when you are a new guy and you're building something from nothing, you have to be loud because no one will hear you. And there's literally like hundreds of thousands of things that can distract you at a big convention like New York Comic Con or
Oh my God, yeah.
C2E2. It's just too easy to get distracted by those things. So that's why I'm just like, you have to really be pushing yourself and get yourself out there to really, again, tell people about the book, spread the gospel of your stories, and get excited about them, be loud about it, because that stuff's important, man.
Absolutely, man. That's why I always talk about Henri, because he's always in front of his booth. I don't think I've ever seen that man sit behind his table. I've never seen. He brings a comfy pad to stand on. He's
Mm.
out there. He is putting books in hands, and I've watched him just like shatter somebody's entire like defense. Yeah, because people come at you at the table, they're like, they want to at least appear like they're not gonna buy, and he just like boom starts talking about it, and they're just like engrossed, and it's like all of their reservation, all of their like, oh, I'm gonna try to hold my money back, all of that falls away, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Like they're automatically in. It's because they get that engagement, they get that they're brought into the space, man. That's the way to do it. You got to do it that way. One of my favorite interactions, I always like to bring it up because it was a great, and it was over time. Unshaven Comics, they're a Chicago company. They did a series that was up your alley, tokusatsu style. It was called the Samurnauts. Ooh, getting better with these names. Samurnauts, and it was like a samurai Power Ranger kind of joint, right? And they fight these ninjas, like, and it's the whole thing. And they used to have a sign. I think they still carry it around. I haven't seen them at a show in a while, but they had a sign that said, "Let me tell you about my comic." And the first time I came up to them, I think they had like 2 issues out. Boom, 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 and I'm like, "Is this was like right after I decided to do trades only?" And I was like, "Do you have a trade?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "All right, well, we're gonna continue this conversation when you have a trade, because like I'm into the concept, but like I gotta have a trade." And
Yeah.
then literally every show I'd see them at, they'd be like, "Hey, tell you about my comic. Do you have a trade yet?" I'd be like, "Not yet." I'd be like, "All right, see you next time." And then it was like a little game we played. And then one year I come up, "Do you have a trade?" They're like, "Yes." I'm like, "All right, let's have the conversation now." Because I was ready, I was because I was brought in. I was you have that hook, and you got to bring people in, because that's the thing, is there's so many. I mean, see, and not C2E2, Fan Expo in Chicago, I would argue both the last 2 years, but the previous year more so. Just people weren't buying, man. People were walking around, and I remember people like, creators being like, "This is the worst show I've been at." And it just, no one was buying. But you saw that a lot of it was just people walking around and just kind of like doing this as they walk, you know, look at each side of the aisle and just keep going. And they're not there to shop unless you bring them in. You can't
Uh-huh.
hook them from the back of the table. And a lot of people like to sit down. And I get it. Some people are doing sketches, some people are doing commissions. I get that. You got to be sitting down for that stuff. But if you're not actively doing commissions, I think you got to be standing at least if in front of the table at best.
Yeah, yeah, shout out to Henri, man. I'll have to drop him a line and tell him we're talking about him because you know, quality guy, nice guy, and he works his butt off to sell his books, and I admire the hustle and how hard he works because yeah, a lot of people don't work that hard, and my thing is that I'm a Midwesterner at heart, and born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and blue collar, roll your sleeves up type of work is the culture that I grew up in. It's what I was immersed in my entire adult life, basically. So my entire young life into my adult life. So I'm just used to like, hey, if I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna, squeeze every drop of juice out of this orange if I can. Like I'm gonna literally do everything I can to make this a worthwhile experience, to make it fun. And to me too, like, if you want to grow, there's lots of ways you can grow. And for me, I'm trying to grow with my stories. Like I don't want to go viral on social media for saying something crazy, or just some people just they spend more time going viral than making comics or making books, and that's cool for their business model, but like I don't want to be known as a problematic person or somebody who goes viral for making comics, or
Right.
because of my opinion. I want to be known for making great stories, and I feel like so far we've been able to do that with core supporters like you, man, and other people who have been with us for the beginning, so from the beginning. So yeah, like guys, check this book out. It's definitely a labor of love. It's a really fun story. We think we've got again a little like almost little less than 12 days left on the campaign. Grab a book, get it, and we made a promise this time that I've never done before. We're gonna get these books in your hands within 30 to 60 days after the campaign closes. So after the campaign closes,
60 days is strong. I like
yeah,
that.
man. Yeah, you're not going to have to wait very long because since this book is done, we press print. They get to our house, we sign them, we seal them, and then you get them delivered. And that's going to be the vibe the whole time. So just I'm excited about the opportunity to get people a book much sooner than rather than later.
And I'm excited to get it much sooner than later because then it's going to go into the mix and it's going to get hit the dice, man. And you know what? Sometimes I get a feeling, and I was just talking about this the other day. There was a couple books that I bought in the last few years where, like, within a couple, like, I think it was like I buy it, I put it on the shelf, and like two rolls later, I hit that book.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having a feeling that this might be a situation like that because it's such a cool concept. It's such and it's really it's kind of a breath of fresh air in the indie comic space. A lot of people go to the superhero stuff, a lot of people do the sci-fi stuff, and they kind of stick in those lanes. You know, Danny J. Quick, you know, he's another one where he went Western, right? I wasn't really expecting a Western out of Danny, but here we go, Ballad of the Black Rose, you know? Like I like seeing the diversity, I like seeing the variety of offerings because end of the day, you don't know what's gonna pop. And if you have the idea and you could put the work in, make it happen. Make it happen. Like this could have been something that you were like, I don't know if there's like a space for like historical graphic novels. And you could have been like, boom, whatever. But you had the idea and you worked it out. And here we are, already beating the goal, already hitting stretch goals, ready to hit another stretch goal. Like it's obviously has an audience and I'm excited for 5 books, man. I'm excited to talk about this when it's time to do an omnibus in a few years. You know,
Same, man. Nah, this is yeah, yeah, shout out to Danny. Danny's a cool dude. He's got a great presence online, got a great book. And yeah, again, to your point, the pivot, man. Like, oh, I'm gonna do a Western, and his promo and his marketing for his book was great. Like I was like, you know, him and his wife walking around in cowboy clothes. So I was like, this is pretty cool, man. Like I like what's happening here. So, you know, this idea that you know, you can really diversify what you're offering and it still be within the universe of like your company and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm just super excited to share this book with you guys and what we're doing and where we're going because it's just a taste. There's so much cool stuff coming. Um, in 2026 it's just not even funny and I'm really excited to bring it to you guys because it's going to be cool, man. It's going to be a fun ride to just see what this does, see what how these books hit, how these stories resonate with people, and you know, just keep on building, man. So yeah, musalionofmali.com is going to take you right to the campaign, and there's so many cool levels you can back, so many different types of books. You're going to love the campaign. I guarantee it.
dude, I love it. I love the transition. You're always a man of business, but we got to give the people a little bit of something to entice them, right? I got to have a little front tag on this conversation to get people to watch the video. So I'm gonna ask you about a couple subjects that we have going on in the comic book space right now in general. The first question to you is, what are your thoughts on the Netflix, Warner, Paramount situation? Like DC potentially being owned either by Netflix or Paramount by the end of 2026. Like where's your head at with that?
I mean, it's smart business for I mean, it's smart. Well, like, how do I put it? In the age of Trump being, you know, the insane person that he is, he's made sure to allow certain things to happen that wouldn't typically happen. You know, there's lots of laws and stipulations in the government about monopolies, and that's why, you know, AT&T was broken up at one point because it was a monopoly on the
Factual.
communications industry. So they had to like separate it because it just wasn't fair. They were dominating the competition, they were crushing it, and they were just there was no fairness to business at that point because they, you know, again, half of the over half, like 80% of the towers, if not mistaken, were all theirs. So, and this is before there was a Verizon or there was a T-Mobile or
Right.
it was just during a time like, you know, when you had like very, very, very minimal amounts of people that offered services. So, and now you have every carrier under the bus, like, I mean, like under the sun offering a service, the Boost Mobiles, the T Mobiles, obviously, like there's so many different companies that are using towers from other companies like Verizon.
Yeah.
So, sorry to get off track with the phone stuff, but I
No, no,
find
no.
tech to be very interesting, guys. So, for me, I think, you know, Trump's friends with guys that like, you know, Ike Perlmutter, who basically bought Marvel, back in the late 80s. He bought it. And, he's an Israeli billionaire, a former, army soldier guy, recluse, but he's best friends with Trump, and most
Mhm.
likely Epstein and all those other psychopaths. So,
And I am
you
on
know,
record and will happily, anytime anyone feels like asking, say fuck Ike Perlmutter for many reasons.
yeah, yeah, not a good dude, man. But like, he owned Marvel, and he's in people who and obviously brokered the sale, and it still gets shares and pieces of it through the Disney deal. So still rich, still making money, still sitting on high. And it's those guys that cook up these ideas like, hey, we need to bring the monopolies back. So why not have a bidding war between Paramount and Netflix to buy all of Warner Brothers? Because look at what Amazon did with MGM. Amazon was making TV shows, and they were most likely outsourcing, or I'm sorry, they were most likely using outsourced facilities from other studios like that live out and about in LA. Like, most of the studios are WB, Disney and other things. So it's like, why not buy our own movie studio and then literally just continue to make our own movies through the engine of this studio? So it was a very smart business move, and I think because Netflix, aims to compete with Amazon on a film level and a subscription basis, they wanted to do the same thing and get content. And I still
Mm,
think that the heyday of Netflix, the peak of its viewership is when they had superhero content. That's when they had the, one-off Marvel shows that were
true,
specific just to
true.
Netflix, Daredevil, the Jessica Jones, the Iron Fists, and all of these, Luke Cages. I mean, these were groundbreaking shows for these platforms that literally launched the popularity of the platform to even greater heights. So they still, I think, have been trying to replicate that,
Sure.
and they've gotten close with Stranger Things. They really have, because Stranger Things is a phenomenon on Netflix that people re-sign up to subscribe with them just for that show.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um I do think that it's going to be wild, man, because whoever wins that bid is going to control, how those characters are distributed. And you're going to see a whole different thing, because if Netflix buys Warner Brothers, they now have access to the entire DC catalog, which will most likely, HBO will probably get absorbed into that deal too. And, it'll literally be everything on HBO, everything DC Comics, everything that was Warner Brothers movie related now exists on Netflix, which is crazy. And people are going to have to go to Netflix. It'll corner
Right,
everybody because they're going to have most of the good content. And, while MGM's got good movies, like it doesn't have as many good movies as Warner Brothers. I mean, just think about the Warner Brothers hits.
right,
Fuck the
right.
fucking the Matrix
Yeah.
alone, like crazy. I mean, like all of the Looney Tunes stuff. Like
I mean,
there's
I would say Amazon is doing something with Stargate. They're bringing back the Stargate franchise, which
yeah,
is long overdue. As a Stargate fan myself, that is a long overdue thing. MGM should have done that. MGM might have had a chance of not having to be bought out had they done that properly. But yeah, I'm I'm seeing what you're saying because from a business perspective, it's smart. You need something, and people have brought this up before. Netflix doesn't, as much as people think that Netflix has this huge library of media, they don't. A lot. And I can't give a percentage. I can't even guess as to a percentage because a lot of it's not even stuff that's in my feed. So I wouldn't even know. But a lot of the originals are licensed, right? The Marvel stuff was licensed. Netflix had nothing to do with the production of those shows. Those were Marvel Studios produced shows, but just licensed to Netflix. They were distributed through Netflix because there was no Disney Plus at the time. And I
yep,
guarantee you, had there been a Disney Plus at the time, they would never have had those shows.
I mean,
Like,
Disney Plus came about because they wanted to take back their creations from every other place they were licensing them to, and then they
right.
found that that wasn't necessarily the greatest model because again, they were making a ton of money off of licensing that they were no longer making. So it's kind of like the subscriber and the viewership didn't, equate or surpass what the licensing fees that they were calculating every year for them. So I do think that it's just going to be interesting, man, to see who buys it, who's what deal they say yes to, if any. My hope is that it creates more jobs than takes away, and it does
Same.
bolster the offerings that Marvel and DC have. I do think there'll be more and more Netflix produced movies. I think they're going to do some WWE stuff where it's like, hey, we have a roster of these movies that we're co-producing with all these different people from our organization, and that's
Mm,
just the thing that we're going to keep on doing. But yeah, I don't know if it's good or bad, man. I honestly don't know. I think it's going to be good for them as a business because they're going to be
sure.
making a ton of
Sure.
money. But us, will it be good for us, the viewers, the content, the people who absorb the content? Who fucking knows? I have no clue if it's going to be good for us because it might homogenize things. It might kind of like make it really, really plain. Because that's what bothered me the most about the Star Wars franchise. When Disney bought it, they literally took the soul out of Star Wars, and it became this kind of like
Oh, there's my opening tag. Wow. Wow. Okay.
that's it
Okay.
right there. Because fucking they took the soul out of Star Wars, man. Like they literally made it like a kid show. And
But
when you
it's for
watch,
kids, man. It was all for kids.
listen, A New Hope, when like like Luke's parents getting turned into charcoal, you know what I'm saying? Getting murdered, like and their bodies just hanging there. The Empire Strikes Back, like how violent Return of the Jedi was with some of those action scenes, the revenge at the end. It was a darker movie. I mean, it had a lot darker tones. And I do think even with when George Lucas came back and had more money and decided to do those other three films in the chronology that he originally wanted to do them, um, I think that even those were dark, even though they kind of like made them a little bit more glitzery and glamoury, and it
Oh
was
yeah.
like, hey, this is a big deal.
Yeah,
Um,
they killed a bunch of kids in the third one.
Yeah,
Spoiler
they
alert, I
a
guess.
bunch of kids got killed. I mean, Anakin was a bad dude. Even when he met his demise and he got sliced up and then fell in the lava, like part of the lava, like that was a dark movie. It was not meant for kids. But when you watch, you know, all of the new Star Wars stuff, it's very much for kids. It's meant to like be, IP generation for toys and for t-shirts, and we're gonna merchandise the crap out of this thing, and it becomes like no longer all that interesting. And for me, I was really hoping that the Mandalorian was gonna bring some of that darker tone back to Star Wars, and it was giving us those vibes and those feelings with the first two seasons, and then the last one just wasn't it for me. I was like, I can't do it, man. And then I know they're coming out with a movie. Maybe I'll see it, maybe I won't. I don't know. But like, I just think that they're trying to make things too palatable for everybody, and that's why I'm like, while I appreciate the new Superman movie for being comic book accurate, I am not a comic book accurate Superman type of fan. I like a Superman that is darker and more realistic. And to me, Man of Steel was better than the Superman movie that James Gunn.
Whoa, 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 whoa. That is the hot take of the fucking episode. What?
Yep,
What? Oh, but there's no joy in that movie. There's no hope in that movie.
it's true.
He lets
It's
so
like
many people die. He kills people. Like,
yeah. I mean,
that's not Superman. That's not
see,
that. Look, no, no, don't get me wrong. I've said this before. I would have loved to see the Snyderverse play out as he had originally intended, just because I like an exploration of a character outside of the norms. I would have liked to see that. I mean, that's why Red Sun is so popular, right? Right, the Sun is an interesting approach to the character from a different lens
favorite Superman comic.
and interesting. Um, learning things about you today, TJ. I'm learning things. But like I like an exploration. That's why I'm a big fan of Elseworlds. Like I have all the what if collections. Like that's why I like that stuff, is because I like to see. One of my favorite shows of all time is Sliders. You know what I'm saying? Like all this stuff is like, it's interesting to
Early
see the
Jerry
exploration.
O'Connell, classic.
Yeah, until he decided he was going to go be a movie star and then ruin season 5 for us. Uh,
Mhm.
never forgiven him for that one. Uh,
The best
but
thing Jerry O'Connell has ever done is marry Rebecca Romaine Stamos, because
factual.
that's
Well,
like
I mean, I did like the first 4 seasons. I just
that and Slider. Yep. It's like, you lucky son of a bitch.
right. I'm saying, but like I think like personally, it's very interesting. I'm super interested that you like Man of Steel better. You would be, besides like the hardcore Snyder bros that are just like he can do no fucking wrong, which is an insane fucking perspective. Besides that, you're probably the only person I've seen just say that outright, like that you
Yep.
like the Man of Steel better. It's fascinating to me. Like to me, I walked out of this movie feeling like, oh, this is like the cartoon that I grew up watching. This is every comic book that I've ever read Superman, like this is the feeling I get. Like I felt like things were possible. And I'm like, that's what it felt like to me, is like they say in the original, right, in the 70s one, they say you'll believe a man could fly, and in this one I almost feel like the tagline could have been, you'll believe a man could make a mistake and still be good.
Hmm.
Like, and that's what it felt like. It was like, it was very much, and that's why, I've talked to people about this. This was this summer, this year of superhero film was a year of emotions. It was an emotional spectrum of movies, and that one was very much about like, you can fuck up and then ask for help and still things turn out good. And like that's what the like the theme of that movie was, and the lesson was like, you can fuck up, like you could screw some shit up and then still just ask for help, and things can still work out, and it doesn't have to all go bad. You don't have to kill your you have to kill your cousin basically at the end of the movie. Because I will say, man, when that movie ended, when Man of Steel ended, I remember being in the theater and the snap happened, and I was just like I screeched, like pterodactyl screeched,
Yep.
because I was
Jurassic
just like,
Park style.
what?
Yeah.
And immediately, and it's funny because like in retrospect, I feel like I was definitely like giving myself excuses, because I was like, they wouldn't have accepted like a Superman. Because literally the whole time, the whole fight, as he's holding it, I'm like, what's the Superman way out of this? That's what's going on in my head. I'm like, what's the Superman way out of this? Right? How does he do this and still not be a bad guy? And then he
Hmm.
snapped this dude's neck. And the more I think on that moment, the more I think that scream that he lets out was Henry Cavill, like just
The
mourning the
comic book man.
yeah, Henry Cavill, the Superman fan,
Yep.
mourning the loss of the like idea of Superman in that moment. Like that's what it feels like more every time I think about it.
Yeah. See, again, like, again, I've read so many Superman books for and been a fan of the character for many, many years. And yes, like what I like about him is that he has had various different incarnations, much like to Batman, to Batman, to, I guess, parallel against Batman. There are lots of different types of incarnations of the character. And for me, um, you know, they did a really good job with the movie, again, giving you that slightly campier, slightly warmer, slightly more, accepted version of the character, that could again exist in a world where everybody's hypersensitive about everything. Like he works well within this particular 2025 period of time. And still a good movie. I think one of my favorite things was getting to finally hear the Kryptonian language. I mean, that was one thing that was my biggest gripe about Man of Steel, was actually, they're on planet Krypton, but everybody's speaking, British English. So I'm like, it'd be great if we could have, had some type of translation type of thing going on so it could feel a little bit more alien. But I loved how Krypton looked. Not a Russell Crowe fan, but I do like his performance in that movie.
Sure.
Um, to me, the music is second to none. What I absolutely cannot stand about, Superman Returns and then this James Gunn Superman movie is that they're essentially just taking what John Williams did and kind of like remixing a little bit. And to me, it's so lazy. It's not like you're paying homage to a classic, but the classic should exist within the space of it being the classic. Let's instead create something new. And I do feel like Zack Snyder was brave enough, and his whole team, and with Hans Zimmer on the music, was brave enough to try to tackle making an iconic soundtrack and iconic sounds for a film. And I thought they nailed that perfectly. Yes, on the movie, there's some aura farming. There's some moments where, hey, you're not really doing a Superman thing, but I kind of want to put it in perspective where, like, he just figured out how, like, what, like, he literally puts on the cape the same movie,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's literally, he's kind of learning what it means to be Superman. And I think kind of people, there's this comparison that I've heard, and I actually think it was perfect because there's the Invincible first season where Omni Man completely decimates a city and Mark's trying to fight him, and Mark allows all these people to die because he's not strong enough to stop the one person that's stronger than him. But and he feels the guilt and the shame of it, and we have to see what he goes through, 2 or 3 seasons after the aftermath of season one. And that's what I think Zack Snyder was going with Man of Steel, is that what makes Superman is him knowing that I can't save everybody, but I want to, and I'm trying to save everybody, and I fucked up in the very, very beginning, and I had to kill somebody out of desperation because this person wasn't going to stop. And I do think that, while it's not the quote unquote Superman thing to do, I think it's the realistic thing to do. Like, there are a lot of bad people out there, man. And, they don't, they're, and they're strong. There's a lot of bad, strong people out there that exploit power and use it to hurt other people. And it's like, if if humanity's backs against a corner against a tyrant, and the only person can stop them, like, I think everybody would say, okay, pull the trigger. We don't really prefer that, but at the same time, like, there was kids involved at the end of the Superman movie. Like, Zod was going to blast right through a whole family, and there was a little kid there. So it's like, I think he's doing the realistic thing, and that's why I think Zack Snyder's goal is to make Superman feel as relatable as possible. And I thought he felt very, very relatable in that movie. And we would have seen Man of Steel 2 and 3, kind of see him work through this idea of what that guilt looked like, what that pressure looked like, and how he evolved into the fully fledged hero he was supposed to become. But obviously we got, rushed sequel, like a rushed, semi sequel with Batman versus Superman. We got a lot of, like, oh, hey, we have to do what Marvel's doing, and let's just make a team movie real quick, and they
Yeah.
just cook
Yeah,
the
yeah.
story up.
The studio interference was definitely a big factor in the failure
Yeah,
of that. And like,
screwed it up, man. They should have just left it alone. Like, they were on the right track. They should have did the Iron Man formula. Just make three good movies with Henry Cavill, sign him so he doesn't have to do Mission Impossible, and they don't have to green screen his fucking mustache off. Give them those three movies, and then let them walk away, and then they do other stuff. Because, I mean, I'll say this: I loved the first Aquaman movie with Jason Momoa. I don't
mhm.
like Jason Momoa at all, but I loved that movie because storytelling, the pacing, like, to me, I'm like, this movie's fantastic. Like, we could have seen Aquaman. Obviously, they came out with two that wasn't very good, but we could have saw 2 and 3 finish that arc, and then we could have got into, a Wonder Woman movie that was better. Or I just think that they're rushing to the table like, hey, this is the format that everybody likes. Let's just do what the competition's doing.
Yeah.
Here's my thing, though, and I'm going to say this, and I've been saying it for like the last 20 years. DC doesn't do well with continuity. There's your other hot take right there. They're terrible at continuity. That's why every year you're going to get a new universe. This year it's absolute everything. The year before it was DC Future State. Before that, we had what? New 52, and then we have DC Knockout, and, like, now they got, Godzilla and Power Rangers in the DC comics. I'm just saying, like, they're just throwing shit at the wall trying to figure out what works. And while a lot of this is very, very cool, what I think the core of what makes DC great is Elseworlds content. The fact that you can have
Mm.
a Superman Red Sun story, because, or again, a Batman Long Halloween. You can have all these different interpretations of characters, and they should be making movies about those because they do it right with the animations. All the animations follow the DC bread and butter formula, which is again telling inconsistent stories that span different genres and different things. I mean, Crimson Knight was one of my favorite Batman runs when he fucking becomes a vampire. It's fucking cool. The art's incredible. Kelly Jones is amazing. Like, why do we not have a movie just based on that arc alone? Because it would be incredible. You get a good director for it. You do 3 films within this particular space.
They've
And
done certain stuff, but it's often I mean, they make trade-offs, right? So the
yeah,
the animated films, especially all the stuff based on pretty much all of the stuff that was based off of the New 52 era, was garbage. It was garbage
yeah.
because they took the worst potential, the worst possible approach to film is they took like 2 to 4 in some cases storylines and just smashed them into this like 90-minute movie. And I'm
Mhm.
like, that's not like, this was a year-long arc. You can't just like piggyback that on, like, you can't do Son of the Bat and Batman Incorporated at the same time.
Mhm.
That's just like one builds to the other one. You just can't smash it together. And then like also we're gonna like piggyback in Batwoman being part of the family suddenly. Like we're just gonna smash all that into one movie. And it's like, what the hell? The only one that worked
Fuck
was
Rush,
the
man.
JLA versus Titans because they were like, there's not really like any one definitive, and that story's been done a dozen times in the comics. So they kind of just did like a variation on like a classic formula, but like did it set within that universe. And I was like, this is the only one out of these that was good because it was sort of an original story. And
Mhm.
then they did this whole thing with just like a really dark finale to it. It was just they've messed up the animated universes, but then they do the Elseworld stories. They did Gotham by Gaslight. They changed it. They changed it. The killer is a different dude. And then I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Because now it's like now we have different things, and now it's like we're exploring different elements of the story. And same thing with like Long Halloween. It doesn't, it could have been better. It Long Halloween could and should have been better. The source material is so strong, and
Yeah.
like the slight deviations they made did not help the story at all. And it's like little stuff like that. And like Killing Joke is a great example, right?
Yeah.
The added minutes to that story, nobody wanted.
Yeah. No, we needed that. Like,
No one needed those extra minutes. No one needed, like, no one wanted it. No one asked about it. Like, it was just Paul Dini being like, remember this thing that I did in Batman Beyond for like one episode that y'all didn't like the first time? I'm gonna do a whole scene about it.
yeah.
Like,
As I said, man, like, it's weird to me because they have the winning formula and they consistently just go against the grain. Like, I mean, I don't get it. Like you have the stuff that works. Like, and again, Marvel's good at continuity because they built under continuity for many years. Yeah, they've reset a bunch of stuff, but continuity's been kind of their bread and butter for a long time. I mean, 300 issues of like, what is it? Ultimate Spider-Man. That's continuity at its finest right there. I mean, there's lots of books, the Amazing Spider-Man just continuing to run over and over again. There's still continuity within those stories. So I do think that DC's bread and butter is telling, offshoot various, variations on characters, and they should just continue to do it. They should do that in the movies, screw the we're going to do a team thing, like, unless it's a story that makes sense. But, we'll see. I mean, I'm confident that Gunn will do something fun with the next, Superman movie. It'll be cool. It'll be fun. Um, but yeah, to me, I think his Guardians of the Galaxy movies were better than the Superman movie, and that's just again
it's,
like
it's different. That's 3 movies. You can't compare that. But
I
like,
know.
I don't think one was better than Superman. I don't think like Guardians one was better than Superman. I think
No,
Guardians as a
no.
trilogy is certainly better. Like the
Yeah.
overall story, trilogy plus one, like his little holiday special. Um, but like the the stuff that he's doing well so far, in my opinion, is really selling me on the idea that this is a shared universe. And that's something that I think Marvel has been severely lacking, especially when it comes to tying in the various shows and stuff together. It's like, yeah, uh, uh, um, Monica was in WandaVision, right? But then we just like never saw Monica again until the Marvels,
which was god
right?
awful. Good
You're
lord.
a liar. You're a liar. I know you're a liar now. You're just fucking with me at this point. You're saying the Marvels was god awful? What
It
are you
wasn't
talking
terrible.
about?
It wasn't terrible. I'm just messing with you.
Like you fucking lying to me right now. I was like, yeah, could like the musical sequence could that have gone a little shorter? Sure. But
We could have done.
like it could have done a little bit short, but like it was a fun movie. And especially it was a fun movie with like they created an interesting like mechanic that like takes you to different places. I
Well,
appreciated that.
let me ask you this: like, how did you feel about Miss Marvel, the TV show, though?
I loved it.
Because to me, that got a lot of flack, but I loved that show. I
That
thought it was
show
incredible.
is, I think, probably I would say top three of all the shows that they've done.
Hmm.
And that includes the Netflix shows. Like
Yeah.
I think that and that show personally for me, like so I was raised Muslim to like in like a adjacent way. We were never like super devout or anything. No, don't know
Hmm.
anybody in my fucking family lie to you about that. They like to act like we've been like on some shit, but like nah, like we just like we had some prayers, you know, like we never went to service or anything like that. But
Hmm.
like and I've always said like for years I've been saying like I'm Muslim adjacent. Like I'm not like I tried doing the fasting a couple times, man. I'm too fat for it. I get too hungry too fast. Because the
I
whole
can't for shit,
because
man.
the whole premise is that when my mom explained it to me when I was a kid, I was like, that doesn't even make sense because you're not even supposed to think about food. And I was like, nope, that's not going to be me ever. What are you talking about?
I'm thinking
Like,
about food right now.
yeah,
I
right. Like, are you
always
serious?
think about food. It's
Right.
like,
I couldn't.
oh,
It's not. I
it's been an
couldn't.
hour, and now it's time to eat.
Right. I couldn't possibly do it. But that show hit a portion of my spirit that I didn't even know needed to be touched.
Yep.
Like I walked out of that show wanting to call every brown woman auntie because I just felt because it was the one time in film in TV that they just allowed Muslims to just be Muslims. These were just people living their lives, going about their everyday routines, and they happen to be Muslim. Because in
Yep.
everything else, it's like they're the translator, or they're the terrorist, or they converted in order to go undercover, or you know, like there's all this stuff, and it's like Muslims have been presented in media, but it's like this is the one time that they were just allowed to be. They were just
Yeah.
there's just like a group of people. We're telling a superhero story. Like they happen to be Muslim. There's some other stuff is going on over here. Like this is like the setting. The story is a superhero bit, and then like also like the again weaving in the history. This the partition. I knew nothing about that. Most people knew nothing about that. When that
Yep.
episode dropped, that was the number one search query on Google for like the next 3 days
Hmm.
because no one knew about it.
Yep.
And it's like the kind of stuff like, and I guarantee you when this book drops, man, you're gonna see that when people get this into their homes, they start reading it, they're gonna be like, hold on, I gotta do some Googling. And I think that'll be a fun thing to look up. Do some like track that when you drop the book, when you ship it, wait like 3-4 days when everybody starts getting it. And
Hmm.
then the next week, just like start doing the like check where it's at on the search. And I guarantee you it'll be on there because people get entranced by this stuff and people start looking into it. But like that's the thing. I love that show and I think she made a perfect bridge. I liked a more human performance out of Captain Marvel. Like I liked her being a little more humanized. They like definitely kept her more Cree and behavior in the
Hmm.
first one, which I understand. Like she was programmed for like several years to behave that way and to abandon her emotions and shit. Like
Hmm.
I got it. It was funny because like at the first movie, you know, the fucking incels on the internet were like, man, she like didn't even smile the whole movie or whatever. And then in this one, she like had emotions and had like emotional range. They're like, she fucking cried too much, man. Do you want emotions or you don't want emotions? I need y'all to pick. I need y'all to decide what y'all want. Like it's they're mad regardless of what it is, because it's not a dude. That's what it is, at the end of the day.
True.
Like, no, I think The Marvels is a good movie. I think it was probably their best Phase 4 movie. Um I liked Eternals though. Did you like Eternals?
I didn't like Eternals, man. I couldn't do Eternals. I tried. I wanted to. I mean, I'm a humongous Salma Hayek fan, and even the other actors in there, the dude Rob Stark from
Great
Game of Thrones.
cast.
I don't know his real name,
Yeah, it's a
but I was
great
like,
cast.
okay, he's a great actor. Like the casting's really good. I mean, it felt like these people belonged. I did like that they had the speedster character. Was I believe she was deaf if I don't
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
correctly,
yeah.
deaf mute. But
Makari?
I did think it was a diverse cast. It made sense, and the special effects were cool. But yeah, there was just lots of plot holes to me. It just didn't feel like it was a movie that yeah, I just couldn't like it, man. I wanted to, I really, really did because I like the Celestials, and I'm probably more of like a like because when I worked at Marvel, there was like departments, editorial departments for books. Like, okay, Spider-Man had two editorial teams. One for amazing and then the other one for like spectacular and other offshoot type of Spider-Man stories. But then, Wolverine had an editorial team, X-Men had an editorial team, and they had the cosmic editorial team, which is like again Thanos and Silver Surfer and read like all of the Fantastic Four stuff and anything that relies into space and how that's connected. And I've always loved the Celestials and what that represented and those characters represented, but also how powerful they were and how revered they were, and literally how like I did think that they did a very good job of giving that look of this like well just the graphics, the special effects
Yeah, the
were
visuals.
but I liked some of the Celestial stories better in the Marvel What If
Mm.
joints that they came out with. I was like, okay, this feels like it felt in the comic. And yeah, I'd say probably the Marvel What If stuff is my favorite to date out of yeah, I mean, like, because to me, they hit their pinnacle right at Endgame. And they've been since trying to again, because like obviously a lot of those actors leave, things start to cool down for a little bit, and then they try to like recreate that same level of like hype back again. And they're obviously trying to do that with the Doomsday one, or the Avengers Doomsday. I think that's the name if I can't
Yeah,
remember.
so I want to ask, so that was the next thing I was going to ask. Have you heard about, and this is going to be spoilers for those who have not, who don't want to talk about Doomsday, who don't want to hear anything about the potential plot points of Doomsday. Feel
I
free to
don't know
go on
shit.
about, make sure you check
Okay.
out MUSA right?
Yes,
See,
musalionamali.com, guys. Check out
make
my
sure you
new book.
check that out, and then you could go on and we'll see you next time. But the rest of y'all, let's have this conversation. You know about this? Do you know about the leak?
I don't know about the leak. I probably shouldn't know because
Okay.
I want to be surprised. Anytime I see something related to that, I scroll past it or I close my eyes and just because I don't want to know anything about that. There's a
I
ton of
didn't know.
crazy.
Meticulously avoided that shit so hard that I didn't get any of it, and I don't spend time on Twitter. And a buddy of mine, Jay Penumbra, who was on the show recently, he sent me a video where he's talking about it, and I was like,
Bro,
you gotta give me at least a little warning. But like, so it's
what's a non-spoiler way of warning people as to what's coming?
yeah, exactly. Like this is gonna be something that, because here's the thing, it's like the bringing back of an actor, right? They're bringing back an actor that was in the previous films, and a lot of people are saying that it is, and we already know about the one, right? The one was announced, RDJ was announced months ago, and that was something that as soon as I saw that, I was like, all right, this could be interesting. But there was a whole segment of people that were like, oh, this is desperate, and I think it really is desperate. And what
Hmm.
I really want to talk about, regardless of this specific little potential detail, because again, I don't have context. I saw a picture like of the thing because there was like a leaked trailer, a teaser, or whatever. I just saw a single image. So like I have no context as to how this works or how it could fit. But like the real thing I want to talk about is with RDJ supposedly reportedly being signed to $100 million 2 movie contract. And with the massive cast bringing back Sir Patrick Stewart, for his final film appearance, final acting appearance. He's retiring after this.
98. He's up there, man.
He is. What I'm saying is they have brought all these people in. It's a huge cast, and there's like notable people missing from the people that have already been announced, which I'm curious about. There is also these other potential people being brought back or whatever, and I'm the thing that I'm wondering is this budget, which is right now reportedly at about $500 million, and
Crazy.
what once all is said and done with marketing, that could reach upwards, if not over, $1 billion. How insane is everyone at Disney right now trying to sell us a movie that has to make at least $2.5 billion?
Yeah, they'll do it. They'll be able to make their money back only because they've thrown because just to your point, they're throwing every big actor they can at this project to again reinvigorate the movie franchise, but also bring all those people back that again got off the ride at Endgame. They're like, hey, we want to really do something, and I I'll most likely watch it. I mean, again, I'm a RDJ fan. I'll pretty much anything he's in, I'll watch him in. But I was watching his movies when he was in Weird Science in the '80s. So I'm just
Yeah.
like,
But my question to you is, does RDJ being in this guarantee your ticket money?
not solely because of him. I just would say, I was excited that because I'm also a huge Trekkie. Like I love the Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Sure.
So for me, anything Patrick Stewart's in, I'm a fan of. So I'd probably go see it more for him and that
Okay.
whole like section of the X-Men that they're bringing back. For me, I'm like, okay,
Pretty,
James
pretty,
Marsters.
pretty light-skinned section of the X-Men, if I might say. Like there's some people missing out of that list that I'm a little upset about.
Same, yeah, same, man. No, I totally agree with you. It's funny as fuck.
I saw the list and I was like,
Like, bro,
and my buddy was walking by. She's like, "Well, she's gonna be blue," and I was like, "That's not good enough.
fucking count, man.
That's not even. Yeah, 2 of them are blue. That doesn't mean shit.
I mean a
Blue's
damn
blue's not
thing.
a real color, motherfucker."
That's fucking hilarious, man.
I
No,
was
but
like, "Where the hell's Storm? We had 2 storms. We can't get either one of them."
yeah, I'm hoping that I'm just hoping we get a ton of surprises that because
Yeah,
to me what I did think they did a very very good job of is when they had the third Spider-Man movie. Was it the third one with where they
yeah,
it was okay, Tom Holland and then Andrew Garfield and
yeah.
Tobey Maguire. Okay, they did a very good job of hiding those two. I mean, they had previews where they
Such a
were
good job.
blocking images and they were like, just confusing the shit out of the public. No one knew. And it was a massive surprise when you're in the theater and it's like, now
The
we
tr-
all thought it. We all thought it. We all
the
hoped for it. And then
the
it happened.
first full trailer confirmed it, or well, the international one, because they had the shot where Lizard like fell and there was no one there to hit him, and it
Yep.
was like everyone's like, "All right, that's what's happening." But like the only thing I saw beforehand was a single shot when they're on the like rafters around the Statue of Liberty, and
Hmm.
they're like having the chit chat, the like little brotherly love moment. Um, I saw that shot of Andrew Garfield against the blue screen, and I was like, I think that's from the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. That's like because I like couldn't like it kind of felt like it was one of those scenes where he was fighting the lizard, and I was just like, I think that's just from the first Amazing Spider-Man. Y'all crazy. This isn't happening. Like,
Yep.
like they did such a good job, and everybody was like, "What are you talking about? Like, that's not. Why would I be
They
in that
they were
movie?"
they
Like,
were going on interviews and like the Tonight Show and completely fucking denying it, lying through
yeah,
their teeth that they were
yeah.
not through
But they
the
have to have
yeah,
any kind of surprise. Like that's the thing. To
you're
get that kind of
contractually
surprise,
obligated.
you gotta. Well, you just it's just you're obligated as a storyteller. I don't
Yeah.
want to know. I don't want to know the movie. Just saw a trailer for a movie featuring Kevin James, right? Paul Blart. Uh, it's this. I saw the trailer, and it's like a romantic comedy thing where he gets left at the altar, right? Except the trailer just then shows me everything else that happens. I just get the highlight reel of the whole rest of the movie. I
Yep.
literally commented, I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to spend my money on this.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. It's a good story. It's entertaining. Like,
Yeah.
because I'm like, you gave me the whole thing in the trailer. How am I supposed to be entertained by seeing something I already seen?
I like the days of when it was a bait and switch. They had a trailer with like footage that wasn't used in the movie and was never intended to be used in the movie, but it was literally, meant to confuse you, to get you, give you an idea, a false positive what this is going to be
Hmm.
like. But that speaks to what we're kind of talking about here is that we're speaking to a bigger problem that's happening in Hollywood. They're not taking risks and they're making movies solely for the purpose of profit, not
Yeah,
art. So
a
it's
hundred
like,
percent.
we're just going to make stuff that we know that works. So that's why there's this resurgence of an incredible amount of sequels. And that's why I said, as much as I love what they were trying to do with the Superman movie, it's very sequel-ish. It feels like a sequel because again, they're using the same music. They're using a lot of the same type of tropes. It feels almost connected to like a Superman Returns and that same type of universe. And even to the very first one, which again, not a bad thing, but it's a safe shot. And I do
Oh,
think
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like things that are a little bit less safe. But again, you and I come from the era of like the 80s and the 90s where people were experimenting and making movies for the purposes of making movies because they wanted to experiment with an idea. And they had, you know, they'd have to get like a big star to like get attached to a project to eventually greenlight something. Like, as an example, I'm talking about Total Recall, the first one,
Sure.
which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Okay, so this story is floating around Hollywood for years, and as soon as Arnold gets involved, that moves the needle for them to make the fucking movie, and then it's a perfect movie. It's a classic, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's kind of like, I wish we could kind of go back to those times where we had people driving the interest, got, like again, um, I think Tom Cruise did that for a long, long time,
Yeah.
drove interest in specific properties and IPs and movies, and people will go see him. I mean, but Top Gun coming out of nowhere, no one was interested in another Top Gun movie. It was cool, and I liked it,
I mean,
but no
it
one
did
was
exceptionally
asking
well
what.
in the theaters.
Yeah, I mean,
It was nostalgia money. It
yeah,
was pure, strict nostalgia money.
yeah, let's go make this 500,000 or this hunt. Let's go make our money back real quick. And it's like, okay, the flip, the making the money back has become more of
Yeah.
the thing than making art. And that's why, like, again, we're just and it was always people were talking about this shit in the 70s, the sequels and how bad they are and why it's a bad idea to do them, especially if they don't make sense. And I do think certain sequels just shouldn't be made. But then other sequels, like for as an example, the new Happy Gilmore movie was actually pretty fucking good. I don't know, at least in my opinion. I really liked it. Of course, not as good as the original, but
Sure.
I still think that for what the sequel was, it was exceptionally well done. I'm like, this actually could exist.
But I bet you it costs like 10 million to make.
Oh yeah, a
You know what I
lot.
mean? Like the thing about these sequels is I feel like we are missing an era that just doesn't exist anymore because there's no such thing as physical media, right?
Hmm.
The direct to DVD sequel was something special. Like you could do a movie. Like, do you know that Scorpion King had 3 sequels?
Oh yeah.
What a ridiculous sentence that I just said out loud, right?
I
What a
think it got up to like
crazy
Scorpion King 5.
sentence.
Yo, I'm gonna Google this shit right now because I'm actually really curious how many Scorpion Kings they had.
I think it was 4 in total because I think I recall there being a 4. One of them was like a prequel because like it was like labeled 4, but it was a prequel. It happened before the first one. Like it was.
Yeah, see Scorpion King movies, and we're gonna see in order. So we've got Scorpion King 2, Scorpio. There was three movies afterwards, all the way up to 2015. Good lord.
Dude,
Wow.
same thing with Blood Rain. Have you ever seen Blood Rain?
No.
Atrocious film. It's based on a video game character. Dude, it was the first movie. This was like early 2000s, right? So I'm still like late teens, early 20s.
Was Blood Rain a female character with like
Yeah,
red
yeah.
hair or
Yeah,
something?
yeah,
Okay, I remember the
with the
picture
like
that
with
came
the
up. Yeah,
blades.
yeah.
So like I was like I love those blades. So I was like, oh man, I want to see this movie because like that's probably gonna be some cool fight scenes, right? And she was hot. I forget who the actress was, but I'm like attractive woman playing this role. Like, all right, cool. Like I'm in. Can I tell you that's the first time I ever fast forwarded through a movie?
Wow.
Because it hit like a sex scene, and it was just like this extended sex scene, and I was just like, I'm not. This is not what I'm here for. I'm not. This is a different kind of movie. I'm here for
Yeah.
the fighting and the. She's got swords. Like that's the shit I'm here for. Like I really, that's what I'm here for. Fast forward through that, and then they're like, there was like 10 more minutes of movie of dialogue, and well, I think maybe one more fight scene, and then another fucking sex scene. And I was like, this is fucking. So I skipped through probably 20, 30 minutes of that movie just because it was sex scenes. And then I was like, oh, they made a sequel for whatever reason, thinking there's a potential that this could be better somehow, or at least less sexy. I think I got about 7.5 minutes in before there was a sex scene. And then I
Dude,
was
yeah.
just like, and then I was just like, fast forward. This is not what I'm here for. It was a different
Yeah.
actress. Like they had already made a sequel. It was a different actress, and it was worse. It was just more sexy. I looked it up recently because I've always said, like, man, I'm gonna do like a hate watch of those movies and do like a reacts.
Yeah.
There is fully on 5 of those.
This
And I'm
even
just like,
recall.
this is the kind of thing where it's like, but it costs nothing to fucking make. And it's like at some point, like granted, these are not great movies, but like look at something like House of the Dead. House of the Dead is not a great movie, but it
Hmm.
is a ridiculous movie. It's one of those so bad it's entertaining movies. I don't want to
Yeah.
say so bad it's good because it's not good, but it is. But it's like, dude, instead of filming fight scenes, they cut in arcade cabinet like fight sequences. So like this dude was one dude like falls into a tunnel, and then it literally just shifts to arcade cabinet graphics, and it's
Okay.
like the fight sequence from that scene in the arcade. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like if that as soon as that happened the first time, I'm like, I'm fully bought in because this is absurd and I'm here for the absurdity. And I bet that movie cost $500,000 to make, like if that.
Yeah.
And
Like I
like that's
said,
the kind of
people
shit we need
who
to do. Cause like, can you imagine them
care,
greenlighting a
they care.
Steel in 2025?
It would never happen, man. Like they'd be
Like,
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 who's that?
like, like, what is it?
They're not giving basketball players
LeBron
roles.
LeBron James walking into to Warner Brothers and be like, let me get a Steel movie. They'd be like, get the fuck out of my building. Like,
Because yeah, he tried to have an acting run and do some stuff, and while he did, his parts were decent, but like the whole NBA player in movie thing is just that whole thing is gone. Like they again, but they were the thing is that they were trying stuff back then. The reason why
yeah,
Space Jam worked is because it never happened before. I mean, and,
right,
and this idea of how do we get creative enough to make something that is completely original and wacky and just outside of the box. And okay, Space Jam's never happened before, but we did have humans with animated characters before, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Okay,
right,
that worked. And they've had other movies that are kind of like that. I mean, personally, I walked into the Sonic movies thinking I wasn't going to like them
right.
because I'm a Sonic purist. I love Sonic, and I'm like him talking like a human, and him, and it's going to be like basically the Garfield movie, and how terrible. I was like, no, it's not going to work.
Did you ever watch the cartoons though? Because he always talked in the cartoons.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, yes, I saw the cartoons, but I never really got into that level, that portion of Sonic. I just was
Gotcha.
like, for me, he's a hedgehog and he's on a mission, but he's not talking in the game. So to me,
I
I'm
see.
thinking the game, not the cartoon. But based on what's done with the cartoon, the movie made sense, yes. But I'm thinking it just gave me Garfield vibes. It feels
Sure.
like this is the Garfield movie all over again, kind of the slightly relatable but gullible, like cool guy that has the pet, and that's his best friend. Like it was going to be the same thing, but the Sonic movies are incredible. I was like, man, this is some good fucking. This is what good cinema looks like. They're taking a bet on a character because Sonic hasn't had a popular game in a long time, like a while.
Yeah.
So it's
Like
kind of a
like a
gamble.
properly popular game, probably 05, 06.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's
Mhm.
been a
I
minute.
think I played the last one. Yeah. What is it? Maybe was it Dreamcast? I can't remember what it was, but there was yeah, it was because
I
playing
want
the
to say
shit out of
there was a GameCube,
yeah, it might have been GameCube.
like a Sonic Adventure or something like that. But
Yeah, man,
it's
like
been a while. It's been a while. It's like whereas like
it
Mario's
really was.
was much more of a safe bet because Mario gets like a hit game every like 3, 4 years. Like there's always
Yeah.
something that they can milk. Like I mean, well, I remember when
Did you
Paper
like
Mario came out, and I was just like, this is garbage, but it was like super fucking popular.
did you like Sonic more or Mario's movie more?
Can I tell you, I saw neither. I've seen
Didn't
neither.
see either. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am much more interested in the new Street Fighter movie.
Listen, the Street Fighter movie does
The
look good.
height of that Guile top is
Yep.
incredible. I
Yeah,
saw
man.
when they do the little creep, I was like, I'm in. I'm in. It
I'm
doesn't
in.
matter what the rest of this dude has like a 4.5 inch tall high top. No.
It felt like the 90s video game. It felt because the thing that made us fall in love with Street Fighter was the game, and it felt like it was very true to the game. And while like, the newer Street Fighters and even like you go back to the Raul Julia, Jean-Claude Van Damme Street Fighter and how quirky that was. I think this one aims to be very, very accurate and true to the game, and that's what I'm excited about because I love Street Fighter. But if I could make a recommendation, start with the Sonic movies because they're
Okay.
really good, man. You're gonna love them. I personally think this is one movie we will 100% unanimously agree on because
Fair, fair. I mean, look,
um,
there's a reason they made three of them, right?
yeah, I mean Jim Carrey's like because to me like Jim Carrey, like I'm a massive Jim Carrey fan, but to me there's quite a few weird ones that he's done that just don't work. And I'm like, okay, well, everybody's got their heyday, everybody's got their time where like they've
Sure.
got Bruce Willis has got his section of movies that are like peak, you know what I mean? And like then he had a bunch of weird shit afterwards. Like, bro, why did you do that? And I was kind of thinking a little along the lines of what some of the newer Jim Carrey stuff was like, but Sonic, he brought back that classic Jim Carrey energy to the Sonic franchise, which to me made it worth it. And I
Yeah.
just thought storyline was good, action was good. It was very like it could pulls on the heartstrings. Like you like anybody could watch it and really enjoy it. And while I thought the Mario movie was cool, I thought the Sonic movie did a better job of telling a more well-rounded story. And you get the action you get in that movie is pretty like I said, it's just surprising. Like I was really disappointed when I watched them, on streaming that I didn't see him in the theaters. And my brother was the first one to tell me, he's like, dude, why the fuck have you not seen that movie? I was like, I don't know, I'm busy doing cons or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I completely missed the boat, but like they're really worth seeing in the theater because the large format, you need to see all the action. But yeah, man, check out Sonic, bro. It's you're gonna
I'll
enjoy
have
it.
to do that. I'll have to do that for sure. All right, let me shift topics here to close it out. So I'm working on the next issue of Catalyst, and it is intended to be a holiday special, right? And I wanted to focus on indie comics and indie creators that have done some sort of like holiday or celebration or festival or something in their books. And I have found a disturbing lack of this in comic books. Now, am
Mhm.
I misremembering, or is there a Joystick Angels like Christmas image that you did at some point?
No, it's a barbecue image, actually. It's a summertime image where they're invading
Okay,
the
there
city.
was some sort of celebration. Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm like, I'm not crazy. Like I remember something, but like I'm not fully 100% there.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of people out here that well, you know what I think the reason why you don't see a lot of it is that there's a lot of people who like to remain neutral about holidays. They don't want to go,
Hmm.
too
I mean,
Christian or too Judaic or to Islam or
sure, sure,
so it's
sure.
very much like, oh hey, happy holidays, and it's a holiday comic versus a Christmas comic. And I do think that Christmas movies are Christmas movies for a reason. Like, you're gonna like they don't have Hanukkah movies. I mean, because again, if like
Eight Crazy Nights. Excuse me.
Crazy Nights is a yeah, I forgot about that movie.
It's a
But
great
I'm just
movie.
saying, like, you think about like Hollywood, right? If Hollywood and it is exception, it's an industry created by the Jewish community. But most of the movies that they made during the holidays were like Christmas movies or like Thanksgiving. But there's less of the Hanukkah movies, and I'm like, okay, why do we have less of those when this is your heritage? So like, I just think that there's the commercialization of Christmas is why people do it more than the
Oh, sure.
celebration.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But,
you're willing to spend money to go see a Christmas movie because you tie Christmas with spending money.
that's right.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But like, so my
What do
call
you
to
want to do with
you,
this comic? I really want to hear this, by the way.
my call to you, and to everyone in the indie comics community is to work in a scene or a moment where there is some sort of celebration. It doesn't have to be particularly of any earth denomination. It could be a celebration or a festival that you create for your own universe. But I think it's these little sprinkles, right? We're talking about like you sprinkle in these little elements, right? I go through the history of comics, and I was kind of perusing what is out there, and even in like the mainstream indie space, like in the history of the indie, there's only a dozen or so holiday exclusive specials, right? And it's
Hmm.
mostly like in the 90s, right? When everyone is kind of throwing out little something here and there, and it's like almost all image. There's like a single chaos book. Like there wasn't a ton of this stuff from the indie space, even sort of in the indie heyday, right? In the image, the peak of image, where all the great stuff was happening, arguably great. But like I think that's just we are missing some of these like special one-offs, and I think we need to bring back in the indie space this like idea of the like holiday special, or like it could be a Valentine's Day. It could, you know what I'm saying? Like you could pick a non-denominational holiday. We got
Yep.
plenty of them, you know. Let me get a Juneteenth collabo book. You know what I'm saying? Like give me
Yep.
something that is sort of outside of the regular scope of what everyone is doing, and like a little anthology, like I'd love if I had the money to fund it, dude. I would do a holiday anthology with indies so fast. I can't even like.
That would be really cool, man. So like, and I don't know, because maybe you can educate me and then the people who are viewing about, is there a holiday that's similar around the time of Christmas, or that something that's similar in the Islamic religion? What is there something close to that?
So Ramadan moves, the actual fast moves, but there is at the sort of at the beginning and at the end, there's the fast, or the feast rather. So there's
Hmm.
the feast after the fast, and it's the Eid. Eid is the Arab term. We call it Bayram in Bosnia.
Right.
So it's literally just like, now you did this 30 days, you did your time. Now we're roasting the lamb. We're doing all the pies. We're doing the
So
whole all the aunties bring all the food. Like everything is there. This is the smorgasbord after your penance has been paid. Like
that's lit, man. That sounds fun to
it's
me.
it's a
Go ahead.
it's a blast. It's a blast. It's always been a blast. Like in all my memories of it. So it's like that's the kind of thing where like I'd love to see that. And it could just be like at the end of an adventure, they're just like, all right, I dipped out for this thing, and then we did this, had this celebrate. Like look at the Fast and the Furious movies, right? The family
Mhm.
dinner, right? They do the family dinner at the end of every other movie or so. Because it's like, hey, all this crazy shit happened, but we still sit down, we throw a little meat on the barbecue, and we have a little family dinner. Like that's what I'm saying. I think we need to have these like little moments to kind of ground these characters into something that's a little more familiar to the rest of us. And because what I had in my mind is your because one of your Joystick Angels characters is like this big panda person, and I'm like, imagine like a little Santa hat on him, putting a
Mhm.
little put because he's like a bigger dude, so like putting a little star on a tree. I'm like, that's a moment, like
Yeah, man.
like even like a
No,
variant or something. Give me something, folks.
yeah, no, that's it's a good call. Actually, I would love to do a Christmas special, even just like half of an issue where we're celebrating, some type of holiday, and those are fun, man. Any type of holiday movies I actually really really like. The ones that are done well. I mean, I even like offshoot holiday movies that people don't consider holiday movies, or there's the argument between Die Hard and Batman Returns about being a Christmas movie. I'm like, it's a holiday
Die
movie.
Hard is 100% a Christmas movie.
Absolutely.
Batman Returns, I'm open to hearing arguments. I'm open to hearing arguments because
Yeah.
what was
Because
because
the backdrop is Christmas, like the lighting of the tree, the
true,
goodwill towards men
true.
and women, like there's the whole concept of that throughout the theme of it. And it even, I'm pretty
Okay.
sure it debuted in Christmas, like on Christmas in the 90s, or 1992, or whenever it came out. It was on
Yeah.
Christmas. And there's a
Okay.
lot of those. movies that are like so far removed from like Elf or like
Well,
um
doesn't the first one end on Christmas?
the first Batman movie, does it end on Christmas? That's a
Isn't
good
isn't
question.
it isn't it a Christmas parade that Joker's trying to like gas?
No, that's just a regular parade where he was
Oh,
given
okay,
birth.
okay.
And yeah, in the 1989 version.
But you're right. You're right. Penguin, because there's a lot of snow. There's a lot of ice. There's a lot of that's. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I might be on board. I might be on board. Batman Returns, this holiday movie. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a holiday movie, man. Like, it's not purely Christmas, but that's the backdrop of the whole story, and it
yeah. Okay.
never breaks. Like, it's literally the whole story happens within Christmas time. So, and it ends with, snow and, again, a Christmassy vibe. So I do think it's smart, for them movie studios to like cook up movies that have like that as a backdrop, even if it's not fully into that, because you're getting holiday dollars, which is pretty incredible, but you're also people are going to be home or they're going to be doing whatever they can on days that where a lot of things are closed. The movie theaters are always open. Um, so it's interesting, man. You know what? This guys, you're getting a preview of a possible podcast between me and Dalibor because
Let's
it
do
was
it.
fun, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
This was fun, man. Yo. But no, I had a great time coming on, man. This is fun chatting about this stuff. And guys, clearly we're fans of comics. We love comics. We love making stories. Dalibor's a great storyteller, dude. You gotta when your book's done, man. You gotta send it to me. I want to send me a link so I can pay for it.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
I'm doing
I'll
my
buy
final
every
rounds.
book
I
you make.
finally got my last round of comments from my wife. It took her quite a bit of time to give me some comments, but
Yeah.
she the great thing about having like a beta reader of different kinds, everyone's going to give you a different perspective on what is missing or what they think works or doesn't work. Like
Yeah.
nobody else brought up this drinking thing that my wife did, because
Mhm.
she's like a alcohol connoisseur. She's a beer connoisseur, and the main character in the book spent some time in prison initially, in jail, and then goes to have this kind of meeting, and I had it written as like just slugging back whiskey, just like 3 4 glasses, and she's like, he can't possibly be doing this, he'd be knocked out. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, he was in jail for 6 months on a restricted diet.
Mhm.
Absolutely not. Like one of
Shock.
those and he's done. Like
Yep.
he's drunk, like he is lost. And I was like, oh, you know what? I ain't think about that at all. Like I think I'm like, I could knock back 3 or 4 and still have a good conversation, but like I didn't spend 6 months on a restricted diet. Like,
Yeah, man. And see, yeah, whiskey's one of those drinks like you build up a tolerance to it if you're drinking it all the time. If you have once a week or like your tolerance can get pretty high for whiskey. I know I had a pretty high tolerance for a while, but yeah, man, no, that yeah, shout out to all the amazing women that give us good feedback, whether it's our editors or my girlfriend gives me a ton of great advice about stuff because her mom's an artist and a comic creator too. So like
oh wow.
she's been around the world of art and comics for quite some time. So yeah, man. No, that's really good feedback because that'd be interesting if he's got I have an iron stomach to kill all the
Right.
six back to back. Like holy
Right.
shit.
Right. I was like, this is one of those things I hadn't thought about. All these little things, because different people just give you these different concepts. And another friend of mine looked at it and was like, how about if you presented it this way? And I was like, damn, now I'm really like seriously considering reframing the whole kind of first half of the book.
Mhm.
Cause like the way he did it, I was like, that does make sense. That makes sense. And it's a little more engaging. It's a little more, enticing to keep reading. So I was like, I might have to do that. Might have to do that.
Yeah,
So, but
man.
yeah,
Like
I'm
I
working
said,
on
like
it.
feedback is cool. It helps. I mean, yeah, so I said I rely on my editors and like my brother and again my girlfriend to like read it, take a look at what I'm doing. Just give me if you see anything that's strange or off, just because that helps us, man. It really, really does. But yeah, guys. I mean, I know you're gonna chop up this video. You're gonna do all the fancy stuff to it when it's done. So I'm excited to share it, have people watch and hear our discussion because it might set some people off, man.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. This has been a jam. Well,
Yeah,
sir,
man.
tell the people one more time where they can find the book, where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, super easy, guys. MUSALionofMali.com. That's MUSALionofMali.com. That's MUSALionofMali.com. Takes you right to the Kickstarter. We can check out our brand new book, which is incredible 120-page graphic novel about the legendary richest man to have ever lived, Mansa Musa. You also can access all of my books that I've ever printed, that all the ones that Dalibor has. Shattered Visions, Joystick Angels, Okamos Dark History, and Okamos, and our new book, New Game Plus, which is a 60-page manga that just came out this year. You guys are going to get access to that as well. T-shirts, a bunch of other cool stuff. And if you want to follow me on social, I'm at RAE Comics on Instagram and TikTok.
Outstanding. And you guys know me. I'm the Indie Hype Man on everything, at Indie Hype Man on TikTok, Twitter, everything. At the Dalibor Zujovic on Instagram, because I just like to keep my name around in the public eye every once in a while. Plus, that's where I flirt with all the pretty ladies. That's gonna be it for this one, folks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Later, guys.